Yes, okay. Of course, you can. Yeah, thank you about the gradients and the colors and stuff like that. Again, I have color coding on most of the things, as in yellow or orange yellow will be theory, and the blue one, excuse me, will be coding along and actual, yeah, me just explaining code. Um, okay, some troubleshooting. You can, of course, you can ask questions about the exercise. I prefer to do it before 11:30, so I can help you individually and share your screen. Now it's theory time, but of course I can help you. Trouble with the JSON file, that's mostly because if you have the exercise ready from from previous session, then you should be able to get the data and just return it. Express. Once I got to Node.js, I got errors. Yep. Screenshot in Teams would be helpful. Then I can help. I don't know what type of errors. If you install Node, you always have to restart your terminal. So if you install Node and try Node here, Node Mon, for example, you need to reboot your terminal or like close it, kill it, and create a new one. Come on. Okay. Apparently my Visual Studio is kaput. Everything is broken today. Come on. All right. For all the individual ones, there is someone who says I cannot use NodeMon because it cannot be loaded because of running scripts are disabled on the system. That's you need to set the execution policy to remote signed. What I mean by that is that execution policy in PowerShell allows you to install packages from a different place. So if you set that, then you can install NodeMon. All right, that's the short answer. If you want to know what it does to your computer, you have to look it up. I'm not an expert on that as well. It's just something in Windows that says, hey, you cannot install this because it's from a place I do not know. All right. What else? I will help in the. I will try to make my explanation for Mongo short enough so you can actually. So I can help some people, of course. Again, if you have questions, NodeMon is one thing, but if after an hour and a half, from 10:15 till now, if after an hour and a half you still have not even just run a basic Express server, which is the getting started, then that's your fault. I had a frustration moment yesterday when somebody asked me, I think like, where's the site for Express at 11:30, and I'm like, what have you been doing for the last an hour and a half? So again, ask me questions. I did not get a single question during the hour and a half that I was not streaming. So I assume that everybody could continue. All right. Also, to check if everybody is awake in chat, I polled it yesterday as well to see what the preference is for the type of content that I give you. Again, we're all searching. I do not claim I'm the expert in digital teaching. I just like to mess with this kind of stuff, just more than your regular teacher. What do you prefer? And wait until I am finished. One, that I provide your theory and just basic examples in the form of this, just on YouTube. Produced videos with like 1 or 2 slides in small chunks on there and then let you go and have the one-on-one coaching available on Teams, or have me for an hour probably go over slides and do a demo with a live stream so you can ask questions. Type 1 in the chat for the produced videos, type 2 in the chat for theory for an hour on live stream. I want to see at least 20 answers. All right. So, okay, that's clear. Then we'll keep this type of content coming. Of course, I will be doing editing, not today because I have stuff to redo for tomorrow, since stupid COVID doesn't allow me to do lessons on campus. I will re-edit this video into 2 parts, of course, into the Mongo side and into the Express side, and I will put them both on my channel with a different so it's gonna be longer, of course. I joke a bit more, I make a bit more mistakes, but hey. Okay, I got Postman to work. It's at least something. Yeah, now Visual Studio. No, not fucking reopen. Okay. Aha, finally. So give me a second. All right, I just made like the very basic tutorial, as in I'm gonna run it. Where are we? Oh, session 5. Okay, so my server is running. I have 3. I'm not returning anything. That's for you. So the code you use to get data from your JSON file, stuff like that, is from previous session. You know, the node exercise. So you will have to use it in between the methods. Now, what makes... Oh, come on, I should be able to zoom in. Control and equals. Where's my equals sign? Okay. Just close this. Okay. So if you get here the launchpad, that's just Postman itself. Create a new request. Done. And it has a tabbed system. So very basically, you can just do a request here. I'm just gonna see, it's gonna return hello world. Okay. So perfect example. If I do localhost, which is a get request, I can do send, and I will get nothing. Different port, of course. Somehow XAMPP is still running, which I hate. Access is denied. Oh, come on. So many issues. Okay, so 1337 send, and I get hello world back. So this is a way of testing your APIs. Again, I just did this. If I do API/board games, I'm not sent, Farah. I got a lot of stuff to do today and like for tomorrow, because stupid COVID canceled all my sessions for a specific new course. So, but I'm trying to. My apologies if I come over a bit agitated. So hello world, if I do /API /board games, you see list. Of course, I just do list here. If I return, let me check. Can I just quickly do this? Then save. If I do it again, bam, I have a list. I have an actual JSON object. Good, perfect. Now, of course, all the rest. This is the tool that you should use to test your routes, not your browser. Why? Because of this. Look at the next one. API save board game. And of course, I will get an error. Cannot get, it doesn't exist. Why? Because it's a post request. I should select a post request. If I do send, I have it again. What is the difference between a post and a get request? Anyone in chat? Food of the gods, by the way. I'm not sponsored, but still. I have like 5 bags ready to go. Difference between post and get. Okay. The most common mistake is actually that get only reads data and posts saves data, which is not correct. It has to do with how the request is built up. Now, I'm going to call on, you never guessed it, W3 schools. Why? Because it's fairly simple and I can give the non-dummy version explanation as well. So, HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol, which is the one that is actually doing the call. It's a protocol. It's something that has been defined for ages. I don't know when the first version started, but anyway, it was before my time. You have multiple. The most common, get and post. Okay, get is used to request data from Now I know where the answers are coming from. It's used to request data from a specified resource. See, this is why I don't like why I don't like W3 schools, because it's wrong and right at the same time. It doesn't tell the whole story. Now you're probably thinking, like, why does he think he's smarter than W3 schools? Because I am. Let's just say that. Get is used to request data from a specified resource. It's just because it's a call to a specific place, in the sense that, as you can see here, test, demo form, whatever. And then this is the important part. Question mark. Name 1, some value. Name 2, some value. The difference between gets and post is that the data that you pass along with the request is exposed and out to read for everyone in a get request, and is hidden in the body of a request with a post method. And now, of course, now we're coming to this. Why do we use post to create and update a resource? It's because the data should be safe. Imagine that for your login, you use this. Imagine that for your login, you use this, but come on, whatever. User, mic, password, 1, 2, 3, 4. If this is my URL, then it's open to so many issues that I cannot even count anymore. Because why? And that it does get correct, WDCUs. It can be cached, so it's in your browser. If someone gets access to your browser, they have everything. It stays in your browser history. It can be bookmarked, of course. Just like bol.com, I had oh, it's my mail. I do not want my mail. I want bol.com. Very easy one, very easy example. I had SodaStream yesterday. Okay, if I click on SodaStream, and I was like, "Hey guys, buy this product," I can copy the link and copy it to you. It's something very stupid, but look into that URL. I will open it in Notepad here. This is a get URL, as in it has the regular URL and the path, so multiple things, and then it has a question mark, and that question mark somehow defines something, product title, whatever, I don't know, but this is given to you as well. You have the same URL as me. Maybe it does something different with it, but that means that your request to the server will have the same data, while in a post request, the data is hidden in the body of an of a request. For example, Wikipedia. If I were to pass something along in the body of a request, you should do it, and then it's in F12. Let's see if I can open it here. I think it's in network. I'm gonna reload the page. Damn. Get. Hoofdpagina. Headers, response. Aha. Response payload. Okay. So if you get your response back, as you can see, the request itself, it has no parameters because I'm just using this. If I were to use this, test equals 1, I assume it will come here in my network. Come on. See, I'm making a get request with a parameter. That parameter will come along, and it has headers that define what type of thing that I want. Like it's going to this server, it's using Mozilla 5.0. I accept language US EN, whatever. Apparently it tracks me that I'm from Liedekerke, which is not true, but it's close here. So those are headers, that's just data. And then in the body, you can, how do you say it? You can put your password, your username, like sensitive data to update and adjust. And you can only get it, for example, if Pim on his server or on his PC is making a request with logging into Facebook, for example, or any social media stuff. I can only get that request if I have a sniffer. It's called a packet sniffer in between his PC and basically the server of Facebook, which is, I already have to be waiting for it. This is why one of the most common hacking attempts is just go sit in a cafe, a coffee shop, for example, and make a fake Wi-Fi. And people connect to your Wi-Fi and actually go there. Now, we're not talking about HTTPS, which means that every connection back and forth is encrypted. So you still need to encrypt. But still, if people are sending packages with data in the body, if you set up a fake Wi-Fi, those packages route through your PC. And then with a very simple tool, you can just download everything that passes through your PC. Every time I go to Wikipedia, they get all this information. So they know, for example, very easily that I'm from the area of Liedekerke if I have that cookie on my PC. All right? That's the difference between get and post. In get, you will see the parameters in your URL. In post, the data is in the body. And that is why get is mostly used for just getting data, just non-sensitive stuff. And post is used to update data. I hope that is clear. I think I have some, yeah. I couldn't find my slides anymore. I had something very beautiful made last semester, so I'll see if I can upload it later. That's it for Express and checking the things and doing stuff with it. Of course, here, as you can see, you can do a get. You can, if I were to board game, and I want to pass along an ID, question mark. as you can see, it already starts here. You can just use this ID value 120, 677, which is Terra Mystica. And it automatically adds it to it. Now, of course, if I do send, I only get game back because I don't do anything with it. But if in my request, I go to my query, check my logging, see? And that's how you get the data from your URL. That's only for GET request. You have to look a bit for POST requests. You can have multiple, of course. And this is the cool thing about Mystica. This is a cool thing about Express. It will automatically format that for you. And it comes along with the request, of course. The request that comes in has that data, and you have to go look into that request. Is that clear for most of you? Can I continue with databases? Okay. Good. NoSQL. All right. Good. Now, NoSQL is a form of a database, like a type of database. I think in Dev 3, you will see MySQL, the regular database, as in having to make tables, make rows, make schemas, make very rigid structures. It's a very common database, but there are others. And one of the most popular types of databases in web is NoSQL. Now, what do I mean by NoSQL? It is not only SQL, so there are more types of it. It's also non-relational. So we have no relation between different tables, or as we will come to know them as collections. In a regular database, in MySQL, you have that. For example, you have a user, you have a table with multiple rows for each user. You have an address table with multiple addresses for each, multiple addresses. And then, of course, the user Mike has the ID of 1 for an address, which means that in the table of addresses, my address is there, located there under ID 1. Why would we do that? For example, my wife, if she also is a user, she will have the same ID because she lives on the same location as me. Okay, so that's how to prevent dummy data and duplicate data. So that's what I mean with relations between tables. So the concept, of course, NoSQL has been around for quite some time, but it's way more used now. It's beginning. It is already popular enough by the likes of tools like Mongo and Firebase. Again, Firebase, you have used that last year. Firebase is not a database. Firebase is a product of Google. That's something else. Firebase has multiple things. One of them is real-time database and cloud storage. Both of those are cloud databases. We are not going to be using that today. Why? Because I do not want you to only have experienced the Firebase way of saving data. Locking you to one ecosystem, looking at you, Apple, is not a good thing. So you should be able to be freely and work with any type of database that you want in the future. And of course, just know the principles behind it. It's mostly used for real-time applications, as we will see in a second. What are the advantages? It's very simple in design. It's horizontal scaling, as you can create as much as you can without really having too much trouble. MySQL is a bit more rigid in design. And it's close to object-oriented coding, so it's easier. Why? Because the data you're saving is mostly of the type of JSON. And again, what have we been working with for all this time is JSON, is JavaScript objects. Again, JavaScript is love, JavaScript is life. So JSON files is what we like. Disadvantages, of course, no joins and standardized interfaces. It's more loosey-goosey, but that just means that it's up to the developer to keep the database tidy. Okay, so you have to make sure that you're not making a mess of it, which will happen, by the way, but still. What types of databases do we have? Or what types of data structures? Of course, NoSQL is a collection name for it, but there are different ways of working with the data. The one we're going to be using is document-based. It's data collected in a document. So just like a table and a row, we have a document per row. So one document for one user, one document for one address, etc., etc. Think of a document as an object of a class. You have the class of user, which has all the definitions. And then each time you need a new user, you make a new object. The same logic exists for persistent databases. You have a table or a collection that defines the user, and then you have a document for each user you want to put in there. And the formats we're going to use is JSON, XML. We're not going to be using XML. We're going to be using JSON, which is the leading format for this type of databases. We also have graph databases. Graph databases, some of you wanted to use a specific API that has GraphQL, which is a graph query language or graph database. It's very much a different beast. It's something that you can keep linking through. What I mean by that is that if you select a user, in that user there's an ID for an address, you can link through it in code to keep building on that query. So get the address, then from that address, get the city, get the city, get the city. I want to get all the addresses in the city, my database. Again, link through. Then for all those addresses, I want to get the user. Again, link through. And you're creating this one massive link in your database based on logic. It's not something we're going to use. I have very basic knowledge of it. I would also just use documentation, of course, to use it. But again, it's a different beast. It's mostly used for data scientists. If they want to have logic like I want all the people who are this age and live in that place, and then for that place I want again all the people below that age, and etc. etc. Key value pairs, those who are choosing backend will work a lot with that because that's the leading data structure in PHP. It just means that you have a key, name, and you have a value, mic. And it stores everything in that type of way. So it's also what we call an associative array. So name, mic, age, and so always left, right, left, right. That's an associative array. Then a white column is just very few tables, but with large amounts of columns. So again, about columns a bit later. Document-based storage is what we are going to use. It's very popular in JavaScript. One document is one object, and the format is JSON. So you already know that. The board game you've been using is JSON, so like the board game file. Every document can be different. For example, I may want to show this, but I think you know. In board games, I can just do this. No, well, not in board games, but like in a JSON file. It doesn't matter that this object is different than this object, that it doesn't care about that. So in our database, it doesn't care about that either. So that's what I mean with it's not, there can be different properties. Also, if I were to, if I were to do this, players 4 is best, for example, but the other one has this. Which is very different. For example, give me all the board games that have 4 players. Well, I just do this. If number is equal to 4 as a number, then this board game is okay. But this will just crash because it's a string. So this is what I meant with a disadvantage. You have to make sure that your data is consistent. If you use a number, an integer, for a property, then use it everywhere as an integer. If you use a description that you're going to be placing on your on your on your website, then use a description, but use a description everywhere for the same property. All right. So 30 is not equal to 30. Retrieve and find documents. You can get the documents from your database by ID or an actual query. We will see demos of query later. There are multiple document-based storage solutions. Of course, Mongo is the one we're going to use. We have CouchDB, and of course, we have the Google Firebase platform. So since you already know how to work with Firebase, we are not going to be using it, and it's also not allowed to be used as a course project. We are going to be using the cloud version of Mongo. Now, why Mongo? It's written in C++, so for the nerds among you, it's very fast, it's very good. It's used in large companies, large enterprise projects. It's very popular by that standard, and of course, lots of plugins and a large code base. So there's a very big community that has lots of documentation on it. It has auto sharding and replication. So sharding is spreading data over instances. An instance can be a thing that runs on a PC in New Zealand, and then on a PC in Japan, and on a PC in Belgium. That's spreading the data. It's on different places. Then at the same time, that's spreading the data. At the same time, you can add replication to MongoDB. It's one of their more popular features. Is that if you from somewhere, if you save data, it automatically internally duplicates that data to different databases or different instances. So that with an outage, you can easily switch to a different instance and have no issues. Also high availability. Of course, they have lots of fail systems. It needs to, of course, because servers, enterprise software from all around the world is counting on that. Now, of course, MySQL also has that. It's just a bit more rigid. If MySQL is like the stern old guy that has proven methods and will not deviate from its methods. It's slowly catching up, while MongoDB is like the hip younger child that wants to try new things. So it has been it has been a staple in web development for years now. So it stores documents like JSON in JSON format. It has a dynamic scheme. Now, of course, you haven't seen SQL, so you don't even know what a scheme is. A scheme is basically the definition of how your database is looking. In MySQL, you have to define, I have a user table, I have an address table, I have a credentials table holding the password and the username, and the credentials table and the address table are linked to these fields specifically of the user table. That's a scheme. It says this is how it should be linked. This is how you do it. If you want to delete something from the address and it's still linked to a user, you cannot do it. I will not allow it. I will throw back an error. MongoDB has a dynamic scheme. You do not need to define the structure of a document up front. We have our board games. We do not have to say that each board game has name, genre, mechanisms, and description. You can just put something in there with just a name. MongoDB doesn't care. Structure is mutable. Like I said, adding and deleting fields is always possible. And you can easily store arrays and other complex structures like you see here. Of course, this is an array. It doesn't care that it's an array. This is valid JSON, so I can save the JSON. Some naming terms. If you eventually learn SQL, this will become more relatable. But a table is, of course, the instance. If you were to look at object-oriented programming, a table would be the class. So that's the definition. That's where all the data is stored. So one table is called in MongoDB a collection. For example, user. A row is an instance of that user. So each row is a different user. We have Mike, Pim, Nadia, Alex, etc. For example, each row is different credentials. In MongoDB, we call that a document. A column is the data of that row. So, for example, our row for user has 3 columns: name, age, and email. So, of course, for each column, for each row, it will have a different value. We have name Mike for my row, name Nadia for the row of Nadia. Okay. A column in MongoDB is called a field. So basically a field like this. This is a field. And joins is the joining of data between each other. That's called linking and embedding in MongoDB. Now, what do I mean by that? Is that they can have relations to each other as long as it's appropriate, and it can be either embedded or referenced. Now, what do I mean by that? Embedded is if the data is located inside the document. So that means user, if I have, for example, here, let me check. If I were to do this, let me think. I have to ID 1. Oh, what the hell? 1, and then mechanism or genre. Do I have genre? Yeah, genre. Genre. Thematic. Oh, come on, thematic. Voila. This is embedded, which means if I have a game that is thematic and strategy, then I have to type it out here, and when I get this object, I automatically get thematic back. Now, what if we have some duplicate data, of course. I just saw. We have, of course, both Terra Mystica and Food Chain Magnet are both strategy games. So in this case, even if it's small, we have duplicate data. We have the same string, as you can see here. We have the same string in both objects, in both different documents. This is embedded. If we want to be linked, then we would do this. Then I would do this. I would place the ID to actually another object in a different table. This is linking. That's the difference. Up. Okay. This is also a very easy way of showing it. So we have an embedded link where the address is actually inside the object of the France. And then, of course, we have a referenced one where there's only IDs, and then that ID will be in a different collection. Okay, we are going to be using Mongo Atlas Cloud. Why? Because last year I worked with the servers from school. If it's down, then you're screwed. And this way the cloud will stay up. Of course, if you go to a different location, your database will always be running. And if you have hold on, you're the master of your own database. So that's what we are going to be using. In MongoDB, in Node, we will have the official npm package. We will see that in a second. And of course, I'm going to give you a demo right now. So, any questions? Any questions up until now before I prep my demo? All right. It can. So Pim asks, can Mongo do some pseudo relationship type stuff? Yes, but it's way deeper into the logic of Mongo itself. If you want to work with that, you can do that, but do it for the course project. Otherwise, no. All right. Good. Normally, I will tell you now to follow along. I will give you the free. We'll give you the link in the chat, and you can all follow along. So I would suggest to actually use another email. So, sorry, your student EHB email. I already have it, so I'm gonna be using a different one. Hold on for a second. So the link I put into the thing, just fill everything in. Company, of course not. How are you using it? I'm learning Mongo. Work email, your student email, name, password, and then click on start and then wait. I'm also going to. You could do it afterwards as well, but welcome. All right. Just type 1 in chat if you get to this screen and you have your, that it's loaded. Type 1 in chat and I will wait until most of you have done it. M&M's. All right. Two more, and I'm going. So, of course, once you're here, again, you can do this by yourself. It's I am basically running through a specific tutorial, which I will also link to you. Hold on. Again, put 1 in chat if you have done it. I only have 14 people and there are 20 people watching. So either there are some lurkers here from other classes or not everybody is... Oh, fuck. Sorry. You should put the explicit tag on. So for exercises 5, there, ding indeed, there's a link here that has the documentation. So create an Atlas account, which is what we're doing. We're going to deploy on a free, we're going to do our IP, we're going to create a database user, we're going to connect to your cluster, and we're going to insert and view data. This is the tutorial that I'm going to follow now with you, and then you can do it afterwards and do some adjustments and actually try something. All right, so everybody, put in a funny name for your organization, doesn't matter. Your project name, of course, Web2 2021, something like that, so your project is unique. And of course, what is your preferred language? JavaScript, of course. And we're clicking on continue. If you click on continue, you take the you take your credit card, and you here it's about $100 a month for the best one. So I'm just kidding. We get the free one, the left one, start your cluster. And of course, this is this can be a bit daunting in the beginning, but it's not that hard. It's basically, what is your cloud provider? honestly, I don't care. So we're just getting AWS, which is Amazon Web Services. Good. You can have cloud. You can have, see, in Google Cloud, you have Belgium, which is, if I'm not mistaken, it's in Charleroi, a very big data center. We don't care. I just use AWS. It works. So I'm going to do that. And then you can choose here. I chose Frankfurt. Jawohl. The Germans. The rest, you stay off of it. You have 512 megabytes of storage. And that's all you need. Create your cluster. And then you should be done. And this is something, no, it's being created. This is something very cool. It has like connect to Atlas getting started guide on the left. And basically we're gonna do that. You're gonna do that. I'm gonna keep this account for now for the next session. Otherwise I have to create another email for that. Now, if you are in here, we're gonna create our first database user. I'm going to okay, this, oh god damn it. Log in with a different Google account. Erasmus. Okay. So I'm just going to show you everything, because if you click on here, that's also cool. If you click on here, it will actually give you pointers on where to click and what to do. So I know it by now. So we go into database access, and we need to create a user that will have access to our database. Now, of course, I'm going to add a new one here. It's you're not going to have any, so you're going to have a big button in the middle. Add new database user. You're going to take a name and a password. Now, in the beginning, just for this demo, do the same. Either admin or root, just for demo's sake. Then my code will work for you as well. So I'm going to take admin. Whoa. Read and write to any database, good enough for me. Add user. You can go snoop in the settings later. All right, now you have a user. Perfect. The second thing you need to do is go to network access, which is here, whitelist your IP. So like I said, an IP is where you're from. In my network access, you're gonna have add IP address, and oh, okay, but apparently you can do allow access from anywhere. That's also possible. Let's see what it does. Everyone. This is temporary and will be deleted in 1 week. Let's do that. So confirm I will allow access for everyone. It's to make sure that everybody can access. You can either do that, or if you go to here, your IP address, network access. Come on, it's deploying. So either do add your IP or add all access. So everybody should be at the same level now. It's only a couple of clicks away. And then we can do sample data, which we are not going to do because it loads it up with like 300 megabytes of just movies and users and stuff like that. It's getting a bit complex. Okay. Again, good that you say you can follow. Again, for the rest of you all, if you cannot follow, let me know so I can reiterate. So first thing we're going to do, database access. Database access here on the left. Click on add new database user and add just here admin or root. One of those two. If you've done that, just add user at the bottom and you have a user. That's it. That's for logging in from your code. The second thing you're going to do is going to go to network access and apparently let's delete everything. It's going to look like this. Add an IP address. So click on the green button. My apologies. You can do either add current IP, which is going to take your IP and put it in there, or you maybe do this, allow access from anywhere, so we have an open cluster. Okay, where are you lost? apologies. Yep. So it's the IP thing, so network access here, which just means who can access this database. That's just the only thing you need to know. After the sign-in, if you sign in, then you come to this screen, if I'm not mistaken. Correct? And then you see this kind of pop-up. So you should have this screen. Oh, deploying your changes, refresh. Ah, yeah, of course. Okay. So you have this screen, which you have a button here. So again, after you sign in, create your user, database access here, add new user, which will be a big green button in the middle or here. If you have that, then yeah, I always forget that people are probably working on one screen sometimes and you have to alt tab in between. My mistake. So then, of course, you put your admin and stuff like that. I will continue the demo a bit, and then I can help you afterwards as well, because otherwise I will not get around in time. So you add a user, add an IP, add IP, allow access from anywhere, confirm. It will do a bit of pending until it's active. It's configuring. And then instead of the dummy data, and this is the most important thing, go to clusters. Okay, so clusters up here, that's just the name of it. You have a button here, collection. Like I said, collections were the tables you're going to be using. So collections, if you click on that, you will not have any probably, and you will have to create a new database. I will delete mine here for a second. For example, I will delete mine here. Or I just create a new one. So here, you create a new database, which is the one you're going to be creating for this session to practice with. So session 5, database name is session 5. I'm going to call it B because I already have one. And the first collection you're going to be using. Now, my collection is going to be called board games because I'm going to be saving the data in that collection. Create. And you will see here, 5B is here, that's the database. Shut up, Google. And in board games, there are no documents. So this is your place where you're going to store your data. And then, of course, in board games...
I'm here. What can I do for you?
You can do nothing for me. And please be quiet.
Here's an update.
Okay. Everybody... caught up. Here's an update. Okay. So board games, you can, and now you have your database. Now you have your database and you can insert documents. So I'm in the database, insert document, and you will see that it will automatically place an ID. This might be a bit weird, as in name, Inis, for example, enter. This is a bit weird to enter, but if you click on this button, the left one, you notice that this is just JSON. Like I said, name, genre. I'm just gonna add something. Strategy. All right. Insert. And this is just a document. Now I have an example already. I added the board games manually. Terra Mystica, Food Chain Magnet, Gloomhaven. I'm gonna delete Gloomhaven because I'm gonna be adding it in just a second. All right. So again, you can play with this. I'm gonna finish the tutorial, and then basically you need to do what I am just showing. Okay. Now comes the most important part: connecting to your database in code. Okay. So we're going back to clusters. Connect again. This thing is pre-recorded, so you can actually revisit it. Pre-recorded, what am I saying? I am live, don't worry. This is recorded so you can watch it later. Connect to your application. It will let you choose which driver, so which code are you using. For example, if you use C++, then you have different code, of course, but of course we are going to be using Node, and it will have a block of code. Now, we're gonna be using that. Include copy, and I am going to do a small demo. Of course, in here, now it's not like, focus a bit on what I'm saying right now so you can test it out later yourself. That's the most important thing right now. So the important things on Mongo is you have a URI, a specific URL that you're going to be connecting with your details. So for example, I created the admin user. Admin is changing. The password is admin. And I'm going to be using, I'm going to close this. I'm going to check on my collections. I need a database. So I'm going to be using the database session 5. Just cleaning it up a bit. So I'm going to be using database session 5 and the collection board games later. So session 5. It's going to call. It's going to try and connect. It's going to connect to the database. Session 5. And the collection board games. This will not have really like, this will not really work, or well, it will work, but it won't do anything. We will, of course, do a full demo at the end. Now, of course, I'm doing a Mongo demo. As you can see here, Mongo, it requires an NPM project, which I have already created. So it has the dependency MongoDB. So what I did was npm install MongoDB. It will download the package. And then in the node modules, we have MongoDB with all the rest of them. Okay. In my MongoDB, then I can call node index 2. Yeah, I don't get anything besides just a regular warning. You will always get this, just ignore it. But of course, this is not good enough. I want to actually make a connection to the database. Now, and this is where documentation comes in. If I were to go to Mongo Atlas documentation, give me a second. Docs, Cloud, Atlas, get started. This link is also in the resources, so don't worry if you don't find the URL. For those who want it already, it's in the chat. Now, connect to your database cluster is okay, but we want to insert and view data. Lot more important. 5 minutes, we're gonna do it way faster. As in, read this. I'm gonna explain it to you now, but read this, okay? So we're not gonna be using Python. Don't use Python. We're gonna be using Node.js. So in the previous section, you used the Node.js driver to connect to your Atlas cluster. That's probably here. It's a step-by-step instruction to install MongoDB, open the connection, connect your application, select Node.js, copy, dummy code, and run it. So go by it step by step and read it. If it doesn't work, you're not understanding it correctly. So read it again, see if you understand what it's supposed to do, and try again. Insert view data, and of course, if you're stuck, ask me. Here in Node.js, we have dummy code. So the following sample application adds a document to a collection called people. in the test database. We have our own databases. That's why my exercise says you're going to do the getting started tutorial, but you're going to make a database called session 5. You're going to have a collection called board games, and you're going to have Terra Mystica and Food Chain Magnet in there, which is what I have. Is it in my different browser? Yep. So I have Terra Mystica and Food Chain Magnet in there. And then you are going to the getting started guide. You're going to be inserting Gloomhaven and getting one board game back. So I'm just going to follow the tutorial. I'm going to copy this code. I'm going to paste it right here. And I'm going to adjust it with what I know. Now, go. Require MongoDB, Mongo client. Good enough for me. Whoopsie. Then, replace the following with your Atlas connection string. So, of course, this string is the one that is unique to your thing. So, we are going back to our cloud. Go to overview, cluster, connect. So save that somewhere, the URL, connect your application. Just the URL is enough. So copy the URL. It's a bit shorter as well. And then replace the username with the actual username. So I'm going to be using root. I have 2 users. So root. The database name is called session 5. All right, we're on our way. Database name, again, session 5. Still don't understand why I have to put it in twice, but still, let's go. I have my database name. And then now I hope the knowledge is coming back to async and await, because now we're going to be using it. Just very small thing. What is this application? It's an asynchronous function, and at the end, it's going to run. If there is an error, it's going to catch the error. You do not have to worry about try catch right now. You're going to learn that in Dev 3. Just take this and work with it. It's going to connect to the client, and it's going to console log to say it's correctly connected. Good. I don't have to do anything with this. It's going to capture the database. Client DB database name. Okay. Do it. Collection people. No, we don't want a collection people. We want board games. And then construct a document, and it's going to insert a document. Well, I told you we're not going to be using people. We are going to be using a board game, namely Gloomhaven. And you can go to the JSON file from before and just copy the object of Gloomhaven. Copy. Paste. Of course, it's an object. It's not a JSON file, so we have to remove the brackets. This is all strings. Perfect. Okay, now we have a valid object. This is just a JavaScript object. Board game document. Okay. Again, we're a step closer. Insert a single document. Wait for the promise so we can read it back. Okay, perfect. Insert one. So apparently a connection has a function called insert one, and it's inserting a person document. No, it's inserting my board game document. So that's this one. We're awaiting, so the code is going to wait here, and then find one document. The find one function will get the first board game it will see, or the first document it will see, and return it into my doc. And then we're going to log it into the console. Let's test it out. Yeah, note. So, connected correctly to the server. Perfect. And I get back the Terra Mystica one, which is the first element. Now, of course, that's this here. We only print one thing to the console, which is this one. So it was correctly in getting the data from my server. Perfect. It's also immediately an object, as you can see by the colors. So you can immediately start working with that. If you do dot name, you can get the data for the name. But of course, we want to test if we insert our document. So we go to our cluster, collections, and of course board games. It's gonna load the documents. Et voila, we have Gloomhaven in the pocket. That's a very small demo of what you need to be able to achieve for the basic MongoDB exercise. That's just, afterwards, you're only going to be working with MongoDB for your course project. So you're going to be learning how to insert data, read data, update data, and delete. And this is just using the documentation mostly. All right. I've never worked with Cloud Atlas, with MongoDB Atlas before. It was the first time. I think Tuesday evening, I was preparing for the class for Wednesday, and I was like, how hard can it be? And it took me an hour actually figuring it out for the first time without somebody explaining it to me, like I do to you right now, and writing the demo up. So of course I do not expect you to be as fast as I am, as I have a bit more experience in it, but it is one of the skills that I want to train with you guys with. If you're stuck now, it's up to you to either ask me questions, go into a small group with like-minded students and try to figure out what is going wrong. And if you finally figure out what is going wrong, you're gonna learn so much more about it than just getting a code from me that works. All right. So that is it for Mongo, for the database. So now I have a working database, and I can do stuff with it. For example, maybe can I do a small example? Maybe I could do a small example. Let me think. So eventually, no, I need to explain the milestone and then ask questions, for example. So what I request for the milestone is that you combine the knowledge of Express and combine the knowledge of Mongo and make a full stack application. It has to use as much data that you use for your project as much as possible. Do not focus on your design yet, as in the CSS implementation and the HTML implementation. Make the bare bones stuff to work with the data. Micah is not gonna like this if I say it, but of course, do the design at the end, or more at the end. Why? Because you're still figuring out the wireframes. You're gonna get feedback. There's still feedback sessions with Micah, so those things can still influence that stuff. Milestone 2 is purely technical, and I need to know if after milestone 2 you are able to work with front-end, back-end database, and that's the basics of this milestone. All right, going to the milestone. Milestone 2. Now you will see that the deadline is like generous. So including tomorrow, for example, tomorrow's the 30th, you'll have 16 days, so a bit more than 2 weeks to work on this. The 16th of November in the morning is the Monday, so it has to be done Sunday the 15th. Of course, this is going to be a large part of your points as well, because I'm going to check if you know it. Let me think. Yeah, what do you need to do? Full stack working prototype. You use dummy data for now, but it will be the groundwork for the rest of your application. As in the sense that if you're done with this, it works and you understand it, you're well on your way to just keep expanding it for your exercise, for your course project. If you can read, update, delete, and create, so CRUD. If you create, read, update, delete, if you can do all that, then you have the basic functionalities ready for your assignment. All right. So what do I expect? A front-end website with at least 2 pages. A homepage, just showing all the objects you're currently managing. I work with general terms because everybody has different things. If a person has a playlist of anime episodes, then I want to see those anime episodes. If somebody is working with for example, board games, then I want to see the board game objects. So that's purely up to you. In my case, in my example, I will show you the objects themselves, like my board games. My one page just shows me my board games. What do you need to do for that? Fetch to your backend, get all the data from Mongo, pass the JSON along to the front end, and do some DOM manipulation and show it on the front end. All those things, after you do the demos, all that code exists. You know how to do a fetch. You know how to create a route with Express. You know now how to get data from a database, and you know how to do DOM manipulation from the first session and even last year. So now it's just grabbing all those things and making one final product. It's gonna be a bit difficult to wrap your head around, but again, work in teams. Just call a student, say we're gonna be working for 2 hours on this. Let's figure it out and do it. Pim asks, is it dummy code or actually content that we will use? A tip, if you're going to be using something with users, which a lot of people do, make a collection users and save already data that you're going to be using. Maybe not a password yet because you have to hash that, but use data that is representative of what you're going to be using in your course project. Why? Because then you don't have to do all the work twice. That's it, basically. Okay. Backend. Web server using Express. You need to have at least 4 routes. Of course, for the create and read. The update and delete apparently you can do later, but the create and read are the beginnings. Get all objects. You need to be able to get all objects. You need to get one single object. If I click on a list of board games just by name and you can click on it on the website, I see the details. I need to be able to get that from my database as well. Save an object, so get and post. And of course the root one, which will show a single HTML file. That's a fun thing to try out with a web server. That means that if I serve to your API, that I get an HTML file back with all the routes that are available. You will need to have a Mongo Atlas database, at least one connection, and it's integrated into the web server. Everything needs to be present before the deadline on the new Git repo. This code that comes on this repo, web course project, this is the one you're going to be using and that I'm going to be using for all the code of your course project. Voor uw werkstuk. All right. Any questions? I have 10 minutes left. Any questions? So what I would suggest is do the quick question, Pim. Basically anything we have in a database needs to have a route to it. Correct. Every collection you have needs to have some way of editing that data. If it's needed, of course. Sometimes you don't need the full CRUD actions for it. Farah, are you available in the holidays for questions? I rather not. I have not taken a vacation since June, since March last year. No, this year. It feels like last year. So I am going, and I do not have, how would I say it in English? There are no camps. Normally my daughter and my son are away. on camp or on taalmoeder, whatever. But everything fell away with COVID, so I am full-time available. I need to be full-time available for the kids, and I want to take a break, to be fair. It's been a bit much last week's with everything thrown together. So if you, like, I plan to take up questions next Friday. So I'm not going to take the whole week off. I'm going to, from tomorrow, Friday, I think I'm going to open a bottle of wine and just go. But up until next Friday, I will not turn on my Teams. You can send me emails, but don't send me an email with like, it doesn't work, here's the error. A bottle of Porto, yeah, still have some. So send me emails with a decent amount of explanation on what you tried and what the errors are. And then I can do it all. Like, I will not accept Teams, just random screenshots people send me. It's very hard to keep track of that. So if it's something that I can fix in 1 minute by just replying to you, Teams chat. If I need to look for it and figure it out, email. That's the general knowledge. Some good recommendations. Porto, gin. And which gin, Farah? Because of course there's lots of JD honey. I do not know what that is. No, I'm actually going to put in my, I think in my 4 years of teaching, I have never once put an out of office notice. I was always available. And I think my wife said that I have to take a break. So I'm going to listen to my wife for once in a while. And I'm going to take a break. Monkey 47, of course. People of acquired taste here. Very good. Good. So again, if you have questions and you have stuff, either send me a mail or in first instance, call upon your fellow students. So do that. There are other people who got it to work but don't understand it quite good. If you ask those people for help, they will get better by explaining it to you. The first thing in learning is teaching, which is very weird to say. Like, I learned JavaScript by teaching JavaScript, which is very weird. So go for that. Any more questions before I sign off for today? Thank you all for the participation. It's still good to see that there are at least 20 plus people joining up for the YouTube. Yeah, thank you. All right, no more questions. Yes, I will. Megan it's Megan. I don't know the nicknames who is who. Like, of course, Farah has her full name. Wafflemancer is specific enough that I know it's Pim, but otherwise I do not know every username. So Meg, yeah, I would assume so. Call me on Teams. I will quit it right now, and then Pim, you also had an issue with your file. I will try to help you with that as well. All right. Take care and also enjoy the vacation a bit. All right. See you later.